Alrighty, welcome back to another YouTube video. You've joined me again at the kitchen table for the post-workout meal. Today we have chocolate peanut Ninja Creamy, absolute fire. We've got our Good Society cream of rice, chocolate flavoured with strawberries and blueberries in there. 140 grams cream of rice, 100 strawberries, 100 blueberries. And then we have, and there's just 40 grams of whey in here, a little bit of unsweetened almond milk and then water. And then we have 4 rice cakes with 10 grams of honey and some PB2, so powdered peanut butter. Absolute fire, choc peanut flavour I think. So yeah, she's an absolute pearl of this meal. So today's video is going to be my back and hamstring day. I was going to do a mic'd up sort of session. However, I was training and I couldn't get the mics to work, and then I got anxiety. So I just pulled the pin on that. I filmed the clips, and then I'm going to do a voiceover, which you will see in a minute. So we are week 5 of the off season, or week 5 since the last show. Average scale weight at the moment is around about 74 kilos. So we are slowly creeping it up, and calories are at 3,800 or 3,780, which is 210 protein, 600 carbohydrates and 60 grams of fat. So yeah, you're going to join me for the back and hamstring session. One of my favorite sessions here, literally absolutely love it. So we have 4 back movements, 2 lat focus exercises and 2 upper back, mid back focus exercises. Then we have hamstring curls and some RDLs as well. Obviously back is getting hit twice a week, and hamstrings are going to be hit with a little higher frequency as well, to try to bring those up. But of course the main goal of the off season is upper body density all over. So I will see you guys at the gym for back and hamstrings. Alrighty, welcome to the back and hamstring day. So first exercise is going to be the single arm cable pull down. I really love this variation just due to the stability factor. You know, sitting behind the bench, you can really brace into it. So a few cues for this one is, first and foremost, you really want to make sure that you align yourself with the cable. So you're going to have to muck around with the bench in between arms, but it's really important that you get that cable in a straight line into your lats, and it's just going to feel so much better. The next thing would be to slightly lean to the working side. So you don't really want to overdo this, otherwise you'll end up crunching down on your obliques, and then you actually won't be able to get your lat fully stretched and then fully shortened. But a slight lean to that working side is going to help with alignment as well. And then the third thing would be to make sure that you are keeping that neutral spine. So the biggest mistake a lot of people make with this one is they'll start rotating through the torso and really leveraging their lower back to sort of shift the weight. Whereas you can see here, I'm keeping my torso super fixed and just letting my elbow drive down into the top of my quad there, and really trying to get that lat short without, using momentum or my body to shift the weight. You'll also notice here when the cable or the D handle is coming back towards the stack, I'm really thinking about letting it drag my arm sort of out and then up. I'm trying to limit how much my shoulder sort of elevates there. If your shoulder gets too much elevation, you'll get a lot of upper back. So it's almost like out and then up. And then the last tip here is to think about your hands as hooks, which is, pretty paramount for all back movements. But as you can see, I'm really holding the D handle quite loosely, and obviously using straps really helps here. But I'm thinking about literally just dragging that elbow to the top of my quad and then in to my spine, as opposed to, throwing the weight or really pulling with my hand. You can see that the elbow is really initiating that movement. So single arm pull downs here, we had a couple of sets, one between sort of 6 to 9 reps and then the other between 10 to 15. And the set's over where I can't get it short, as you can see. Then we go over to our upper back focused variation, or first upper back focused variation. So we're going to have the chest supported row. So as with my back video that I did the other day, same sort of cues here, right? I'm letting the weight sort of drag me back and really open up that upper back. And then I'll take a slight pause in that stretch. And then my goal here is just to really think about driving my elbows or dragging my elbows behind my body as far as I can, and obviously squeezing those shoulder blades together. Again, trying to limit momentum. I'm not throwing the weight. As you can see, the chest stays on the pad, and I'm keeping my chest up, of course, as well. I find if you try to protract too much and try to stretch through too much, and then you actually, rotate your shoulders in, you're going to really, really struggle to get a nice retraction. So it's more about the stretch as far as you can before you start to roll in, and then that's your range, and then focus on dragging the elbows back and really squeezing those shoulder blades together. So once again, 2 sets here. Because I'm limiting momentum, I remember I used to do 3 or 4 plates on this thing, and now I'm back to 2 plates and a 1.25 or 2 plates and a 5. But the way my upper back feels after I execute this movement, like, it's absolutely lit up. So definitely one where if you can get good retraction, and limit momentum and actually use your back to move the weight, it's really going to blow it up. So 2 sets here of the upper back focus row, and then we're going to move on to our single arm low cable row once again to hit the lats. You notice here too, I'm not really taking sets sort of beyond failure and doing too many partial reps at the moment. I'm sort of trialing, maybe that 1 partial rep and then sort of racking it there. And I think as my off-season progresses, as opposed to just taking the piss with partials, I'll be more so focusing on adding, extra volume through some sets. So third exercise here is going to be the single arm low cable row. So biggest cues here is, again, thinking about dragging that elbow into the hip. But as you can see, I'm trying to keep my torso relatively square. Again, a lot of people will, use that momentum and sort of shift the torso and, almost lean back to get the lat short. But again, you're limiting your ability to actually fully stretch the lat and then fully contract the lat when you're doing that, right? So I'm just going to try to keep a straight line from my elbow into my hip and focusing on dragging that weight down and in as you come through. As you can see, really focus on controlling that negative and then a slight pause in the stretch before I drag it back, making sure I'm limiting momentum, making sure that lat's working as hard as possible throughout the movement. Righty, then on to hamstrings. So first hamstring exercise is going to be the lying hamstring curl. So a few tips here is you really want to think about keeping your legs close together. You want to have straight lines from your ankles to your knees to your hips. You definitely don't want to rotate your ankle outwards like you would with a squat or point your toes out. You want to, if anything, try to point them in and try to keep a straight line there. And then as you can see here, I'm not overextending. I think the biggest mistake people make is they overextend at the bottom, then their lumbar or their lower back's going to round, then they use a lot of lower back to sort of shift that weight, whereas I'm going to a point where I've got a good stretch on the hamstrings, and then you'll notice I'm very, very particular with that slight pause in that stretch position. Then I'm thinking about driving my quads just into the pad as hard as I can, as I really think about, dragging my heels up to my bum and just squeezing the shit out of the hamstrings. I think this is one where so many people, they just use momentum, they rock their body back and forth, whereas if you can think rib cage down and really lock yourself in, control that negative, that slight pause there, and then just focus on contracting your hamstrings as hard as possible to move the weight. Like, yeah, you won't lift as much weight, but who cares when you've actually grown a pair of hamstrings as opposed to just grown your erectors or your lower back, So hamstring curls, in my opinion, are one that are very much butchered. And if you can get them right, man, you can get so much out of this movement. So once again, 2 sets here, one between sort of a 6 to 10 rep range, and then one between 10 to 15. And, taking them to about 1 rep in reserve to sort of failure, and just making sure that we fully tax them before we move on to our RDLs, which is going to be our second hamstring variation for the day. Apologies, I've actually very much butchered it. So I forgot that I had to go into my second back focus movement, upper back focus movement. So this one I set up behind the bench with the long sort of D handles. I'm trying to sort of replicate the low row that I do in my first back day. So my elbow path is probably not quite where I want it here. Probably should be a little bit more flared. But I'm trying to pull sort of from that low position into the high position, so I can get a lot of like mid to upper trap, and less sort of upper lat recruitment that I do with that chest supported row. So once again, anything sort of chest supported is going to limit your ability to use momentum right, and then the focus here is just to drag those elbows up and out and obviously get a nice big stretch there. So this is a great little variation. If you don't have a low row or something like that available to you at your gym, like just playing around with little things like this can, you can make up your own exercises. And the reality is you don't need to have the most exquisite fucking machines to get a good workout in. You just got to think a little bit outside the box. And then the last exercise of the day is going to be RDLs, and I'll run you through sort of how I do these ones. So for me, RDLs is all about that stretch that we get on the hamstring, right? So in my opinion, it makes more sense to spend a lot more time in that bottom range where the hamstrings are fully stretched, and then, not coming up so far that we take all of the tension off the hamstring. So I sort of come up about 3/4 of the way. To be honest, I'm not really happy with these today. For whatever reason, I just couldn't get my brace properly. So I did feel a little bit weaker, probably because I did them as a last exercise, where I generally do them a little bit earlier in the session. But the goal here is to try to keep your chin sort of tucked or sort of fixed on something in front of you. And then to initiate the movement, whenever it comes to RDL, it's thinking about pushing your hips back and up sort of as far as you can, sort of weight in that midfoot. And then, obviously taking a little bit of a pause in the stretch position, and then driving it back up. And like I said, I'm trying to not really come up and fully extend through, and just try to leave a little bit more tension on the hamstrings throughout. But as I said, wasn't really happy with these ones today, and it's a movement I've always sort of struggled with. So I'm just, bringing it back to basics and lower weight and just trying to really build it up from here. To be honest, I'm still feeling it really, really well and got a good stretch on the hamstrings, but I know that these can be tidier. So we'll stay on the same weight here and try to fix these up over the next few weeks. But again, good little session, awesome pump. I actually did a bit of posing at the back end of this, which I did include in this video. So we'll wait till I finish this set with the boys in the background, getting after it, and then we'll go through the posing. So set the camera up a little bit low here, but anyways, you can sort of see decent little pump today. Reality is I just need more thickness through that back. Everything's there. It just needs to be denser and thicker. So that is obviously the big goal of the off season, is to get that 3D look. And it's probably going to take me multiple off seasons because I am very thin, but that's an area that I really did get exposed on show day. Show days this year is just that thinness through the back. So again, we're going to be rowing and growing as much as we can throughout this off season. So that's going to wrap up the pull and hamstring days. Hopefully you guys found a bit of value in the voiceover. And just let me know if you like the voiceovers or you'd rather, obviously the in-person talking, and I'll hit you up with another video ASAP. So another YouTube vid done. Peace out. Oh yeah, and as an absolute amateur, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Cheers.